Have you ever found yourself just wishing your computer could do things for you? I mean, without you having to click every single button. Well, that's exactly the promise of AI agents. And today, we're going to pop the hood and see how they actually work. We'll use a real-world example to make this all super clear. So let's dive right in.
You know the feeling, right? You've got like a dozen tabs open, you're trying to compare prices on something, read reviews, maybe book a flight at the same time. It's this whole digital juggling act. But what if? What if you could just tell your computer your goal and it would handle all those tedious little steps for you? Well, that's the whole idea behind AI agents. So to make this really tangible, we're going to follow a little AI agent I've decided to call Clawbot. Its mission sounds simple, but it's actually pretty complex. Navigate the messy world of online shopping and find the perfect new smartphone. And by following Clawbot on its journey, we're going to uncover all the fundamental pieces that make these agents tick.
Okay, so before Clawbot can even think about opening a browser, we need to understand its basic anatomy. What makes it it. We're going to break it all down using some pretty simple analogies. Think of it as the brain, the soul, and the hands of our little digital assistant. All right, so at the very heart of every single AI agent is its brain. And that's a large language model, or an LLM. This is the exact same kind of AI that powers tools like ChatGPT, and it's where all the reasoning and planning comes from. But here's the really cool part. The brain is swappable. Clawbot can use a small, fast, pretty cheap brain for the simple stuff and then call in the big guns, a really powerful, more expensive brain when it hits a problem that's super tough. Now, every agent needs a purpose, right? A personality. This is its soul. And look, it's not as mysterious as it sounds. It's literally just a text file, often called something like soul.md, that acts as the agent's prime directive. This file is what makes Clawbot a diligent shopping assistant and not, a procrastinating poet. It sets the goals and, really importantly, the ethical guardrails.
A brain is pretty useless if it can't actually interact with the world, and that's where tools come in. You can think of these as the agent's digital hands. They're just small pieces of code that let the agent perform really specific actions, like click button, read file, or send email. They're the bridge connecting the agent's digital mind to the real world of websites and files. So if tools are the individual ingredients, then skills are the recipes. A skill is just a predefined sequence of tool uses that helps accomplish a more complex task. For example, a web researching skill might tell the agent to first use the Search Google tool, then the Extract Text tool from the page, and finally, the Summarize tool. Skills are basically how an agent learns from experience and, frankly, gets better at its job over time.
An agent that can't remember anything? Not very helpful. That's why they have memory. Think of it like a digital journal, just a set of simple text files where the agent logs everything it does, everything it sees, and everything it learns. This is how Clawbot remembers that you're an Android person, not an iPhone person, so it doesn't have to keep asking you the same questions over and over again.
Now, this next part is what really separates an AI agent from just a simple chatbot. It's called the heartbeat. It's basically a scheduler that allows the agent to be proactive. So instead of just sitting there waiting for your command, Clawbot can be programmed to wake itself up every hour to check if that phone you're looking at has gone on sale. It's what gives the agent a real sense of autonomy.
So let's do a super quick recap. We've got the brain for thinking, the soul for purpose, tools for taking action, skills for strategy, memory for learning, and a heartbeat for being proactive. Now that we've met all the key players, let's see how they actually work together as a team.
Okay, Clawbot is fully assembled and ready to go. Now it's mission time. Find the perfect smartphone. We're going to zoom way in and watch its thought process in real time as it navigates a busy, messy online store. This is where all those components we just talked about really come to life. The core of how an AI agent operates is actually a very simple loop. Look, think, act. First, it looks at a web page, but not like we do. It sees a simplified text-only version. Then it thinks. It does this by sending that text to its LLM brain and asking, okay, based on my goal, what should I do next? And finally, it acts. It executes the command the brain sends back, like click button 12, and this loop just repeats dozens, maybe hundreds of times for a single task. And it's so important to get this. The agent isn't really thinking for itself inside the browser. It's more like a remote-controlled robot. The browser is the robot, and the LLM brain is the operator, sitting in a totally separate room, making every single decision. For every click, every scroll, every single keystroke, the agent has to phone home to its brain for instructions.
So this constant back and forth with the brain is what gives the agent all of its power and flexibility. But yeah, it also comes at a price. Every single one of those phone calls to the brain costs a tiny bit of money. And when you're making hundreds of them, well, it starts to add up. This brings us to what is arguably the single biggest challenge in building AI agents today. It's something developers call the token tax. And it all boils down to the cost of using that super powerful LLM brain.
The token tax is basically the fee you pay every single time the agent sends information to its brain and asks it to think. Each one of those think steps costs money. So if an agent isn't designed really carefully, it could spend 30 minutes browsing for a phone and end up costing you more in fees than you save on the deal. This isn't just a cost. It's the central economic problem that shapes the entire architecture of how these agents are built.
So how do you manage this token tax? Well, the smartest strategy is called model escalation or hierarchy of minds. You don't use a single, expensive, genius-level brain for everything. Instead, you have a whole team of brains. You use a cheap, fast brain to handle all the simple, repetitive stuff, and you only wake up the expensive, super smart brain when you have a really tough problem that requires some deep thinking. Now, this whole idea of a team of brains can actually be taken one step further. What happens when a task is just so big and complex that even the most powerful single agent would struggle with it? Well, you guessed it, you build a team of agents. So instead of having one agent try to do everything, a main coordinator agent can break a big task down into smaller pieces and then delegate those pieces to a team of specialized sub-agents. So for a smartphone mission, Clawbot might create a researcher agent to go find the best prices and an auditor agent to check for fake reviews. And each of these sub-agents can have its own specialized brain, making the whole operation way more efficient and cost-effective. All right, Clawbot's team has done its job. The perfect phone is sitting there in the shopping cart. But before we let our agent click that final buy button, we absolutely have to talk about the most important topic of all, safety. Letting an AI agent just run wild on the internet comes with some pretty serious risks. I mean, it could be tricked by a scam website, it could get stuck in some kind of infinite loop that runs up a massive bill, or it could even accidentally leak your personal information. And these are not just theoretical problems, they are very real challenges that have to be managed carefully. And this is exactly why the single most important safety feature of any AI agent is you. For any high-stakes action, like spending money or sending a critical email, a well-designed agent will always have a human-in-the-loop safeguard. Clawbot will do all the research, find the best deal, even fill out the entire checkout form for you. But right before it clicks Confirm Purchase, it will stop and it will ask you for your final OK. And that's it. That's the full story of how an AI agent actually works, from its basic building blocks to its complex teamwork. You know, these things are no longer just concepts from science fiction. They are real tools, and they're getting more powerful every single day. The technology is here, so the only question that's left is a deeply human one. What goals are we going to give them?